Tools that you need for the job are filter wrench, 16mm wrench, funnel, some rags, obviously your oil and filter, and a drain pan. So once your hood's popped, the first thing I like to do is pull the dipstick out just a little bit and remove the fill cap. You can just set that upside down off to the side. Once we've got those things undone, we can go underneath the truck. The first thing I like to do is the drain plug, and this is a 16mm. Make sure you have a drain pan that's like 14 quarts or more. You're draining 13 quarts of fluid here, so you're gonna make sure you have enough room for it all. When I do drain plugs, I like to go up, out, and up with the plug. So it starts dripping here, we're gonna go out and up, just like that. It's good to have rags underneath as well when you're doing this to clean up your mess. And you're just gonna sit and let that drain out. If you have a big enough drain pan, you can actually move over to your oil filter and do that at the same time. So in our case, our drain pan is plenty big. We're gonna go ahead and remove this oil filter as well. In my opinion, this is also the wrong oil filter. It probably says it's the right one, but I only use Motorcraft on Powerstroke trucks. Usually I'll loosen this up to where I can get it by hand, and then I'll just start letting it drain down the sides like that. And I'll let this drain for quite a while until you just see drips coming out of here. And I'll usually grab a rag or some gloves to remove this one here once it's drained out as well. While that's draining underneath the truck, you can take your oil filter. I always like to keep the original box. And I put the filter in upside down, and you can prime the filter by filling it all the way up with oil. This filter goes on upside down, so you're not gonna leak any, and it'll help the vehicle not to have oil starvation on the first startup. So go ahead and fill that up to the top. And that's good. We use basically this entire quart here, so that will fill up this almost all the way, and we can install it. If you get any oil in this groove, you've got to clean it out, because that's what leaves the streaks down the side of the filter, is when this groove is filled up with oil. Not all the time is it actually leaking. It's just sitting in this and going down the side of the filter. And I always fill it up to about the bottom of the threads. You can see it in there. Always make sure to lube up your gasket as well. So I like to wait until it's about come to a really small stream or just a drip to put the drain plug back in. And I always screw it in by hand, about as far as I can go, and then we'll take that 16mm and just snug it up. You don't want to kill this, but you just kind of snug it up. You obviously don't want it leaking. And then I will always go and wipe it off well with a rag, and then I will move over to actually pulling off the oil filter after that. So for this filter, I will just start to unscrew it, and you'll feel when it's about to come off the actual spindle. And I will dump it forward and then set it in my drain pan just like that and let it drain out. And this will still drain for a little bit, and it is still dripping, but I like to wipe off the mounting plate really well. And then by hand, I like to make sure that the spindle inside the mounting plate is tight, because these can unscrew, so just make sure that it's tight. And we've already filled up our oil filter, and we've greased and we've oiled the gasket. So I'm gonna go ahead and start screwing that on now. And with this, I'll go just about as tight as I can get it by hand. I don't put any tools on it, it doesn't need it. Then wipe the filter down and you are good to go. So now our drain plug is tight, our oil filter's back on, and we can go back up to the top and add oil. So now we can add the oil. I'm going to add the little bit left that we had from the quart and that went into the oil filter. So I'm gonna add that first. And again, this vehicle takes 13 quarts with the oil filter. I personally like to put a rag down here. I'm typically pretty good about not spilling it, but I surely would rather have a rag there to catch it if I do. Oil collects dirt and just over time makes a mess out of an engine bay, so I just prefer not to have it there. Pro tip, if you pour from the side like this, it doesn't clug a lug as much. So go ahead and add all your oil in. I usually go about 12.5 quarts. Then I'll start it up and check it. Your oil will go through the funnel better if you still have your dipstick cracked or pulled out a little bit. Okay, so we've put about 12.5 quarts in this. I'm going to remove the funnel. I usually move it onto the towel and then just bring it back. We'll push the dipstick in, put the cap back on, and I'm gonna start it. We'll let it run for about 15 seconds and then let it sit for about 2 minutes. And I will check the level of the oil. If we need to add, I'll add in the other half quart or however much needs to be added. In that time, we'll check underneath the vehicle very quickly to make sure that there's not any leaks. And we'll let the truck sit now again for about 2 minutes, and I will pull the dipstick out to check the level. We'll make a determination if I need to add the rest of that half quart or if it's good where it's at, just based on where it lays out on the dipstick. Okay, so let's check the level of the oil now. It's been about 2 minutes. I'm gonna wipe the whole dipstick off really well. And we'll put the dipstick back in. And we are low. I'm gonna add the entire half quart back into here. And we should be about where we need. So we'll go ahead and add that oil now. Okay, so one more time, we're gonna go ahead and take all of this out and check the oil one last time. Right about where we need to be. Might be hard to see on camera, but we're about the middle of the hash marks there. So we are all set. I will continue to check this maybe in a couple of days after some driving, just to be sure that it's at the right spot. But we are good to go. The last thing that we need to do is go inside the truck and reset the oil life, and I will show you how to do that. So you'll need the keys for this. Go ahead and turn it, the key to the on position. And my key is activated on here. I need to turn that off. So from the main menu, you're gonna click on settings, and then you'll click on vehicle, and you'll scroll down to oil life reset, and you'll hold the OK here in the center down, and it will say oil life set to new, and you are set. Now, personally, I track my miles as far as oil changes go, and that will be determined on which kind of oil that you use. Right now, I go about 7,000 miles in between oil changes on a full synthetic oil, and I change the filter obviously at the same time as well. You can do whatever you feel best depending on your driving habits and how much you tow, that kind of thing. But I definitely don't want the oil life to keep coming up on my dashboard, so I reset it there. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And if you found value in this content, please like and subscribe to the channel. There's gonna be a ton more of maintenance videos coming on the 6.7 Powerstroke.